going to be up against, you know, something strange, but he does end up seeing the one Ancient of Wind with that peon, and maybe even the second one that was hidden in the back there. So he knows he's going to be up against dots again. I don't know if this affects his decision making, but he ends up going for Endurance Throw on his Tauren Chieftain first, and he did that last game as well. And this gives him that increased movement speed, which is going to help him for doing surrounds and things like that, and also escaping, chasing down or running away from his units. You notice he ended up picking up that Boots of Speed from the other Goblin Merchant as well. And in this situation, he's just creeping with his Tauren Chieftain. Now, this is the ideal situation that MYM Focus wants to go for. Most Orc players will tell you that this is what you want to do as an Orc player versus almost any race, is you want to go out there with your Blade Master, either keeping tabs on your opponent or straight out harassing, killing your opponent, and trying to pick off individual archers, do some creep jacks, things like that. All while that's going on is you're solo creeping with your Tauren Chieftain. You want to kind of get the levels either more even, or you want to get that Tauren Chieftain, especially when you're up against Druids of Talon, to get that level 2 Shockwave, which is going to allow him to do more damage to those Druids of the Talon. So Grunt really low HP there. Wow, I almost got killed there from these bloodlusted Force-Troll Trappers at the Goblin Merchant, but he does end up getting away okay. See, you let your Tauren Chieftain tank a lot. It's not a big deal because he's going to be able to heal it up from his healing salve, and he's eventually going to be itemed up really well with a Potions of Healing or with Potions of Invulnerability and things like that. So nice to item up your Tauren Chieftain. Just like in the last match, you're going to see both players, when they're available, picking up Scrolls of Healing from the shop. Now, when you pick up those Scrolls of Healing, you don't. It's not necessarily. I mean, it's good to be using it on your. Obviously, you have it, so you can use it versus your opponent in big fights. But you're able to deny that Scrolls of Healing if you buy them up all the time for your opponent to have them. So in this case, the Blade Master was able to pick up the Scroll of Healing from that Goblin Merchant, and now if Winters wants to pick up a Scroll of Healing, he's gonna have to make his way all the way over to the other Goblin Merchant, pick up that Scroll of Healing, and since it's creeped out, obviously he doesn't know that, but the Watch Ward's gonna catch him there. So definitely good moves here so far by Focused. A little bit improved play, I think. Again, I think it's the smarter clicking rather than the spam clicking. And maybe he is a little bit more confident in this match with this opponent rather than versus Soju, who's, you know, from Meet Your Makers, a big clan here. Winter's obviously a little bit less known player than Soju is as a Night Elf player, although a very, very good player. He's playing Druids of Talon exactly the way Soju did, going for even the same hero selections, going for that Beastmaster. He's going to be picking up that Tinker at Tier 3 relatively quickly here too. So he's about halfway through Tier 3. So again, keeping his Blade Master around, even with the Druids of Talon, because the Beastmaster doesn't have the boost of speed, he isn't going to be able to keep up to that Blade Master. And the only thing that's a big threat to the Blade Master right now is the Demon Hunter. Right now, Demon Hunter catches him with his boost of speed and gets a mana burn off, barely kills him, and has Fairy Fire on with 11 hit points. Blade Master's in a kind of a tight situation, but he does have the Fairy Fire on him. So now that the Night Elf player knows the Orc player is kind of in that location, just because of that one Fairy Fire, just kind of tag. You know, that's what Night Elf players are doing. They're tagging each individual unit. Obviously, this takes to tag the Blade Master. And although Fairy Fire doesn't stay as long on heroes as it does on units, I believe I'm correct on that. Correct me if I'm wrong. If it stays on heroes the same as it does on units, I think it doesn't. But so it's just something nice to be able to have. Again, that's that free map hack and everything that's going on here. So this Ancient of War place, this is kind of a, the scout farm, but for Night Elf, I guess, close to this tavern here. And he was actually using that to probably pick up the Tinker later in, but the Orc player was able to scout it out now. The Orc player is having to take this out now. This gives him, not only the Night Elf player knows that the Orc player is there, but also wastes a little bit of time for that Orc player in taking that out. It wasn't a lot. I mean, it went down relatively quickly. But now he could have, put a little bit of pressure on, maybe got a creep jack off on this gold mine. This Beastmaster, really low hit points here. Is in a very tight situation. If the TP is in to have to save the space, he's going to immediately have to use some Moonwells. And they're actually, because it's daytime, I think they're low on the Moonwells, so he doesn't have a lot of Moon Juice to keep alive here. So he does pass off a Potion of Healing off that Beastmaster, so as soon as he gets in, he can use it if he needs to. But it doesn't look like he does at the moment. He, again, is opting for the Fairy Dragons. The Night Elf player, sorry, is opting for these Fairy Dragons, just like Soju did. However, not to be burned twice, the Orc player is going to be opting for a counter to those Fairy Dragons in the form of Bat Riders. Now, Bat Riders are going to be able to hit those Fairy Dragons even when they're in the Mana Flare mode. I believe that the Fairy Dragons can still be hit by that. So even if they're not in Mana Flare mode, being able to hit them when they're in the air is going to be very nice. I'm probably giving you guys a little bit of misinformation here. I didn't research that, so correct me if I'm wrong on that. I'm pretty sure I even might be wrong on that one. Again, itemed up TC, we got Scrolls of Healing on Blade Master and on the Tauren Chieftain. Conversely, on the Night Elf side, we only have a Scroll of Healing on the Demon Hunter. So with a Spirit Link used on, he's got 6 peons with him. Last time he only brought 5 with him. You can see him kind of changing little things to try to fight the same strategy that he was up against. So Night Elf does indeed finally pick up his Tinker, and he does have him there, and he's going for Pocket Factory just the same. Again, those Pocket Factory units just sitting there holding the front lines, not necessarily for a long time, but again more as a distraction. So Spirit Link goes off on whatever unit was being focus fired on last, and when he does decide to go for this fight, he's going to Spirit Link those peons as well. Those peons, again, not necessarily used there to do their damage, they're not necessarily there to tank as much, but they're to kind of help Spirit Link spread out the damage and to cause a distraction for that Night Elf. You know, if a wave of a volley of focus fire from the Druids of Talon accidentally goes off on a peon, or a regular attack goes off from the heroes on those peons, it's kind of wasted. Whereas if it was on another unit, wouldn't be so bad. So the Blade Master runs in there, and he's kind of in a bad situation because he had Fairy Fire on him and gets focus fired a lot and mana burn, so he's going to have to retreat a little bit. This is a pretty interesting fight here. The Orc player is going to be creeping out this gold mine here, and as is the Night player, going to be creeping out the turtle camp to the north of that a little bit, and they're just barely going to miss each other. Both players could have definitely used this creep jack to end this game a little bit quicker here. You notice this game is a little bit longer than the last one. That's due to the fact that we are going to see a little bit of an expansion happening here, and Focus is actually going to be able to get his core army built a lot due to the fact that Winners isn't going to be doing a lot of pressure like Soju did, picking off individual units and holding the Orc player down, you know. You can see in this game that Focus didn't lose that many. I think he lost 1 grunt so far, and he hasn't recreated any. So these are the original grunts from the first part of the match, and he wouldn't end up recreating his grunts. I can't think of any reason why he would want to do it in this matchup, because those grunts, again, with the heavy armor, are going to take extra damage from those Druids of the Talon, especially when they're used Fairy Fire to focus. So you see the Night player just barely missed the Orc player there, clearing out that expansion, running out of the way. The Orc player is going to be creeping out another expansion spot, I believe, and he's going to creep out that same expansion spot that he crept out last game to expand there. Finally, that Winners is going to be, he's not from Meteor Makers, blah. So we do have these Bat Riders out. We're going to see them used against the Fairy Dragons when they're in a round. We have level 2 Quillbeasts from those Beastmasters, which are really, really nice since the Beastmaster's level 3. Again, that added focus fire damage. Yep, he was able to use his detonate or his suicide attack on the Fairy Dragon when it was flared, so, or in his little flare mode. Alright, a little bit of first confrontation pretty much of this big fight, of this matchup here, and it's going to be a good one. Fairy Fire hasn't gone off yet. We see Spirit Link on all these units here, and again, keeping all units Spirit Linked, and even when they have Fairy Fire on him, he is not going to use Disenchant. He's only using Disenchant specifically on his heroes, and you notice he runs into that fight with the invulnerability on his Tauren Chieftain first, and being invulnerable, he isn't going to be able to be Cyclone, so he can run in there and get a Shockwave off in good position, and you notice that these Druids of Talon are very, very tightly clumped. That was a little bit of a bad timing there for the Demon Hunter to cast that Scroll of Healing. He cast it, and then immediately after the Shockwave went off. So either it was preemptive and it was a good thing, or it was a bad move because the Shockwave ended up going off doing more damage. So lots of red HP Druids of Talon there, and the Beastmaster is forced to use his Scroll of Healing even after that Town Portal save or cast to save them. So low HP Beastmaster is forced to use some Moonwells to save off of that. So interesting decisions there on when to cast that Scroll of Healing as a Night Elf player, even as the Orc player. You know, when do you want to cast that? You want to wait until, you know, the Orc player is not as crucial because you're not as dependent as a big AE attack like Shockwave coming off on your units. It's more there to allow units to stay in the fights longer, whereas the Night Elf player has to use it before all his units completely get dissipated and demolished by all these by the Shockwave here. Now, what's interesting in the last